Hi everyone, my name is Abslev. I'm from Nassau, Suffolk region, and today I'll be interviewing Eve Barlow. Eve is a freelance music journalist originally from Scotland, and now she lives in LA. Welcome, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start. I know that you originally grew up in the UK, and now you're living over here in the United States. How has your experience as a journalist been different from where you originally grew up and here now?
Wow, that's a great question to start with. Well, first of all, in the UK, I always worked in-house at magazines. So I was a member of staff, I was working in an office, I was always part of a team. And in America, I actually walked out of my last job and came here without a plan other than let's see how this goes, and landed on my feet in LA, and I became a freelance writer kind of by necessity because I wasn't working in-house. So my experience here has been the complete, different in every way because I'm no longer tethered to a desk. I'm out in the field every day. I've been fortunate enough to travel all of America. In fact, I've experienced the world through the prism of music and film, and that's one of the greatest blessings of my life. And being in America has allowed me the diversity and the space and just the most awesome experience to travel throughout this country, finding stories I would never have dared to find in the UK.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
So, of course, you're a music journalist. Would you like to explain a little bit about what your job actually entails and how you've used your platform to talk about what your passion is?
Great. Well, yeah, music journalism essentially is when you kind of stalk rock bands around the place. No, there's different facets of music journalism. There's the criticism facet where you're reviewing a new record that's coming out, or you're going to a gig and you're writing it up afterwards and giving your remarks as to whether you think it was good or bad and rating it. But there's also an element of music journalism, which is the part that I'm more inspired to do, where you immerse yourself in someone else's world and you spend, 2 days with someone, you go on the road with them, you get to understand why they're an artist and what makes them tick and what their art is about and who it's supposed to reach. And, these aren't necessarily puff pieces. Sometimes you meet someone and they aren't who you think they're going to be, and you have to reflect that. But that's the real meat of music journalism that really drives me. It's about the art of conversation. It's about the human condition, and art can elicit that from people who are 24/7 artists. They're just living a more kind of extreme reality from everyone else, and it's fascinating to be immersed in that, be part of that. As for my passion, I have many passions: music, film, entertainment being one of them. Human beings, honestly, just as I say, the art of conversation is a huge passion of mine. And, while I was working in music journalism, I was the forefront of so many diversifying and intersectional conversations. I really became one of GQ's star writers in the LGBTQ space and introduced LGBTQ artists to a traditionally heteronormative magazine. And I did a lot since the early 2010s to inject so much more equality for women artists in traditionally male-centric, male-focused magazines. So I was always pushing for diversification of identity in terms of what was the word I'm looking for? Representation. Yeah. That's the one. Yeah. Representation in magazines that I was working at. But it was the passion to fight anti-Semitism came from the dearth of that conversation in that space, and a kind of curiosity from me as to why we weren't allowed to talk about that too. And from there, a new road was built.
Well, of course, all of this work in, including diversity within work and your journalism is so important. So I know that in the recent years, you've started to really use your platform to talk about anti-Semitism and to speak out against any negative action that has been towards the Jewish community. How do you think that your faith plays a role in your life and in your career?
I think it's something that when I grew up, this is how I'll put it. When I grew up in Glasgow, I came from a very small but tight-knit community. And I was instilled with such a sense of Jewishness from the youngest age. And I knew that there was a distinction between the Jewishness that I experienced in my home and how I went out into the world and immersed with a secular society and assimilated. And I think the same thing happened with my career initially. You know, I always carry my Judaism with me. But there was a way that I had to perform in my industry in order to get by in it. And the call came to me when I could see the hypocrisy. And that's really what shifted the journey of my career and has closed certain doors, but opened new windows. And I'm not, you know, I'm honest with everyone. And I feel it's very, very important to be honest with everyone at BBYO too, that there can be prices to be paid for speaking out as a loud Jew, especially as a proud Zionist. And what happened to me was that, you know, I was blacklisted from my industry for doing that. But that doesn't mean that I'm not a writer anymore. I'm still a writer and I still love music. And I'm going to find an avenue in which to do the thing that I love. But I'm not doing it at the expense of continuing to do this work and to be a leader for this cause, because the whole experience has taught me that if that can happen to me, it can happen to any Jew. And I now feel a position of responsibility in terms of carrying that torch and inspiring the young leaders of tomorrow.
Well, we really thank you for that representation, and especially everyone here at BBYO. You know, we learned so much about speaking out for what you believe in and using your voice. So how do you think that teens like me, like everyone else in BBYO, all of my peers, can use our platform to speak about what we care about and about against anti-Semitism?
Yeah, I think you focus on the issues that really impact you personally. Look around at what's happening locally, you know, to start with your own story. There's so much power in advocating when you really humanize it and you reflect on the details of your own life, and then people can really understand. You know, it's one thing to be able to define what anti-Zionism is. It's one thing to be able to debate about the diversification of Jews of color or light-passing Jews, you know, light-skinned Jews. It's another to be able to share a story with people that sparks their imagination, or that changes the chemicals of their mind, that they can now see something that they couldn't see before. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all bleed the same way. And if you can get through to someone on a universal human level with your own personal story through your social media, I think that's the most powerful thing. And obviously having the backup of a tremendous fountain of knowledge and education, so that when people challenge you, which is inevitably going to happen, you have the facts ready at hand and you can argue anyone out of the room. Knowledge is the most powerful thing in the world with regards to safeguarding your own identity and protecting your life and your survivorhood.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so glad that you could be here today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.